My name is Kristen Sorek-West, and I'm the Director of Marketing here at Executive Education at the Yale School of Management. Today, we are exploring how the design of our newest leadership development program, that'd be the Elevated Leadership Program, influences the experience of the learner and how it elegantly moves participants through the material to help achieve its learning objectives and help build community. So before we kick things off, just a few housekeeping items that I'm sure we're all well steeped in, having gone through a pandemic together. We are recording this webinar, and the recording will be distributed afterwards to all registrants. We encourage you to send us questions and comments throughout the webinar using the chat and the Q&A features. I will be moderating the chat and Q&A, and my executive education colleague, Rachel, who you saw in the chat, will be moderating the chat. So Rachel, go ahead, give us another hi and a hello so we can see your name up front and center. Thanks, Rachel. And we also have Meredith Crawford on the call, just a fellow executive education colleague. So hi, Meredith, thanks for joining. This webinar will last about 45 minutes. Gypsy and I are engaged in a conversation, and we invite you to join us. So we are here for a discussion. You may be inspired to ask us a question. That's great. Please put it in the chat, put it in the Q&A. We're going to answer your questions along the way, so please submit them when they come up. Odds are that if you have a question, someone else has something similar in mind. So the Elevated Leadership Program, or ELP, as we sometimes call it, is a blended program hosted by the Yale School of Management. We will dig into what blended means in just a moment, so hang in there. This program is designed to strengthen critical leadership capabilities, develop an authentic leadership style, and translate those leadership insights into action, especially for a team. We want you to complete the program more confident in your identity as a leader and your ability to successfully lead others. We know that you have risen from independent contributor, and now you're likely a leader leading either a small team, a large team, a unit, a division, maybe multiple divisions even. We are hosting the Elevated Leadership Program this fall, September 10th through October 17th. And we have a fantastic guest on the call with us today, Gypsy Garcia. She is going to help us understand ELP a bit better. Gypsy is our Associate Director of Learning Design and an architect of the Elevated Leadership Program. So welcome, Gypsy. I'm so happy to have you on the call today. And to start things off, can you give us a brief intro about you, background, and what does it mean to be a part of the learning design team at Executive Education?
Yeah, thanks, Kristen. I'm happy to be here and talk more about this program. I've been working in executive education now for 9 years. My first job out of college was a coordinator role here, managing program logistics. I leveraged some learning opportunities along the way and held roles in client relationship management and business development before landing in my current position in learning design. Through this role, I manage curriculum for our synchronous programming, which means programming that's happening live, and that's online or in person here at our campus. I'm someone who's really passionate about lifelong learning. I'm always reading or listening to a podcast. So I've been really lucky to lean into that special interest with this role. I'm most interested in the idea that adults learn best in an experiential environment where there's an opportunity to directly test and apply new ideas and concepts. And I think we'll dig into that a little bit further as we continue talking about the program.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Gypsy. We talk about often, you'll see behind both Gypsy and I, we have these lovely virtual backgrounds that share the school's mission to educate leaders for business and society. And at Executive Education, sometimes we say that we're here to educate leaders for business and society now, because we know that our participants are working professionals who are applying our teachings immediately in their workplace and in their professional and personal lives sometimes too. So Gypsy, in regards to the Elevated Leadership Program, can you tell us why this program exists at all? Like, why did it come into being?
Yeah. So backing up to the height of the pandemic, we transitioned all of our programming to live online. And through that effort, we noticed we were able to provide access to folks who otherwise might not have been able to attend our programs for a variety of reasons. For some folks, allocating time for travel was burdensome. For others, leaving their home context is not possible, but maybe they're otherwise equipped to learn and benefit from our programs. As an example, we had a participant in our women's leadership program who was proud to be a remote worker. It allowed them to provide support care to a high needs child, and they would have been unable to join the in-person program because of that specific situation. And so they were really grateful to have this accessible opportunity to take advantage of. And so in tandem with these learnings on increasing access to our programs, we also noticed there was a need for programming that focused purely on leadership concepts. And this meant focusing on the core skills of leadership without supplemental materials such as accounting or geopolitics. And so we thought about both of these needs in the context of the expertise we have here at SOM. We have such a wealth of expertise with our organizational behavior faculty here at SOM. And with the leadership of our faculty director, James Barron, this program design came to life. So it's really a showcase of that leadership expertise, and it's focused on leading as your best authentic self to better lead your teams and prepare to eventually lead your organizations in future roles.
So I want to throw you a question, Gypsy,
Yeah,
about organizational behavior.
sure.
So, I mean, talk to me about what topics are included in organizational behavior. Things like that, maybe James Barron, or Jim Barron, he's our faculty director for the program. Like, what material does he teach?
Yeah, so organizational behavior could mean a range of topics, from decision making to managing in a matrix to leading organizational change and what that could look like depending on your role in your organization. Concepts such as influence, accountability, all things like that. And that's really what we mean when we say organizational behavior. And you'll see a lot of that through this program.
That's great. And in regards to why at Yale, you touched on that we have a lot of wonderful faculty expertise here at Yale. I also think that there's something special in how we structure our leadership programs. And I was wondering if you could go into that a little bit more, just that the multiple levels of like how we start developing leadership and then how it expands outward.
Yeah. So here in executive education, we focus on this idea of learning how to lead at the self level. And so that means, what do your values look like and how can you leverage those values to be your best self? And then what does that mean when you take those values and apply them in your decision making or how you manage a team? And then how do you work with your team in a cohesive way using these values you've identified to then make and affect change at the organizational level?
Mm-hmm. We see that we have a popular program, the Women's Leadership Program. It began in 2016, I believe, still going strong. And you can see ELP and WLP sharing that DNA, where
That's right.
It starts with the self. It starts with identifying your unique leadership strengths, your characteristics, who you are as a leader, and identifying ways to honor that and be able to share that in a way that where you feel comfortable with the rest of your team and your colleagues, and then seeing how that leadership translates outwardly into your immediate group and then even beyond that.
That's right. And you build a really rich network coming through our programs. And that's something that we're really looking to lean into with the Elevated Leadership Program, is how can you lead with a strong network of folks that can then continue helping support you beyond this program.
Absolutely. So I want to go back quickly to the blended component of the program. So in a digital learning environment, going through the pandemic anyway, I have heard terms through like synchronous, asynchronous, digital learning, hybrid, blended. Like, what does it mean to have a blended professional development program at executive education?
So blended, when we say that, it means any combination of in-person and online learning and asynchronous. And so what we mean is multiple modalities are included to deliver the learning for this program. And in this context, we have both live online and in-person sessions, which are two modalities. And then we'll also have some asynchronous components that will help anchor the learnings and apply them as you move through the program.
So for people who haven't been on the the Elevated Leadership Program webpage, what does the agenda for this program look like, especially as we think about those blended modalities and how they're paced?
Yeah, so we start with a live online module, that's module 1, and we'll kick off our learning starting at the self level. And then we'll come to campus for module 2 for about 2.5 days. And we will lean into the teams aspect of leading. So how can you translate what you've learned in that self-leadership module, and then moving into managing your teams, how you make decisions with your teams more effectively and with more agility. And then we move on to concepts and influence in module 3, which is the last live online module. And that will help prepare folks to do things such as affect change when you leave and head back to your context, or present, a project, right? And a project is one of the components of this program. And we'll talk more about how those two concepts are threaded together.
Awesome. I am going to take a moment just to remind everyone to drop in your comments and your questions into the chat. We haven't gotten any yet. This has been a lot of great information from Gypsy and I, so that I can fully expect that, at least I'm hoping that everyone on the call is just taking it all in and absorbing it. But join us, feel free to drop anything into the chat. It could be just like a thumbs up, could be a question. Take your time. On to the program's learning objectives. Would you mind sharing with us ELP's learning objectives?
Yeah. So through this program, we're hoping to prepare mid to senior level learners to be effective leaders by reflecting on their individual strengths and leveraging strategies for connecting those personal leadership values to lead their teams and organizations. We also want to expose learners to decision-making, accountability, and influence frameworks using assessments and workshops. One of our faculty, Zoe Chance, is a rock star who, as her latest book title suggests, uses influence as her superpower. She'll wrap up our program and she'll help prepare our learners to present the final project presentations. And lastly, we want to help learners apply these learnings from our live sessions and from our asynchronous components to individual business challenges using the tools and concepts that they acquire throughout the program.
We have, I want to just touch on Zoe's Chance real quick. Zoe's book, Influence is Your Superpower, is a fantastic read. She is a fantastic faculty member here at the School of Management, as is Heidi, as is Jim. If you haven't visited our website and their program page to explore the fantastic faculty profiles, I encourage you to do so. They have, we have descriptions like biographies about the areas of expertise and what you could expect to learn from them. So I encourage you to visit the website to learn more. I want to go back to Gypsy, the learning components, that inaction that you were talking about. Can you go into that more? Like, give us some examples, provide some details. Because I also think outside of this call, we were chatting about how that also speaks to the needs of an adult learner. And it's going to be maybe part 2. So why don't you talk to us part 1 about these learning in action projects?
Yeah, sure. So part of our asynchronous components, which is what we're hoping to anchor all of these live sessions on, we're providing group coaching as part of this program. And you'll be placed in your group coaching teams at the start of the program. And the hope is that you'll start to deepen those connections as you move through the program. And you'll leave with a subset of folks that you have this additional layer of connection with, in addition to the folks that you've met throughout the broader cohort. We'll have applied learning discussions on our learning management system. We'll have some reflective journaling practices, which are quite effective at helping integrate new concepts and ideas and start immediately applying them. And then we have this individual project that we keep referencing. And the idea of that project is for learners to select a challenge that they're currently experiencing in their context and apply any relevant learnings or frameworks from the program, with the goal of identifying a solution or a possible next step to make progress on addressing the challenge. So as an example, if I'm a new leader that feels strongly we should divest from a specific client, but maybe I don't have the requisite support to make this decision, how can I convince my leaders to divest? That's one example of a project question. Or I'm managing a new team and I'm having a hard time creating cohesion. What can I do? And these are all things that you can hope to address as you're moving through this program. And these challenges can look different for everyone. And I'm hoping that it does, because that means you can all learn from each other with all these different examples.
Awesome. Actually, we have a great question that feeds in the chat that feeds nicely into this.
Sure.
Adam, I see your comment about how you don't yet have direct reports, but it could really help you with I'm just giving thumbs up every single moment here, team. So I am jazzed about it. So maybe the thumbs up are a good sign. And just echo what I'm feeling internally. But back to Adam's question, will this program still be a good fit? And I would say yes. Like, just because you don't have direct reports does not mean that you are not leading others already. You have colleagues, you likely are on group projects or team projects. You also have to manage up. So you are leading, you are in some ways leading your supervisors and your superiors. So in anticipation of advancing in professionally, where you will have direct reports, you'll already have this knowledge built in, and you'll already have these learnings to draw on for that future role. That's what I would say. Gypsy, I see you nodding your head. Do you have any other thoughts?
No, I think that was great. It's really that springboard, as you mentioned, where it can elevate you if you're already in a role where you have teams or multiple teams. And it can also prepare you for when you do take that next step and you have some direct reports. So I agree, Adam. I think it's still a fit.
Mm-hmm. Adam, you also asked, is there a certificate learned along the way? Yes, is the answer. You earn a certificate of participation, and we will provide to you guidance as to how you can add that to your LinkedIn profile, so you can show your network that you participate in this program, that you completed this program, and that you gained certain leadership skills as a result of it, or you strengthened skills and gained leadership insights as a part of your participation. And then going back to Christopher's question, great question. I hope that I think Gypsy kind of teed this up a little bit, but what kind of assignments are required? I love this question about requirements. So Gypsy, go ahead.
Yeah, so typically for each of our live sessions, our faculty will identify some preparation in terms of a reading or assignments. And you can typically expect about 4 to 6 hours of assignments leading up to each program module. In the first module in particular, we are requiring a qualitative feedback assessment called the Reflected Best Self exercise. And that is probably the assignment with the longest lead time, where you'll take about 3 weeks to reach out to folks who can submit stories where they provide examples on when you're being your best self. And these can be folks in your professional or personal lives. And we found that people start the program with a really rich assortment of feedback from people that they value in their lives. So that's an example of an assessment type that we might have in the program. We also provide the decision-making for leaders assessment, and that's a really effective decision-making tool. And that will be part of module 2 when we move into the teams component of our program. And so just to reiterate, on average, you'll have about 4 to 6 hours of preparation before each module. And it can range from assessments, as I mentioned, to readings, to discussion questions on our learning management system.
Thanks for that, Gypsy. I find it's helpful, as I've taken digital learning courses as well, to know what the rough expectation is for workload every week.
Mm-hmm.
And you said 4 to 6 hours of prep approximately for each module. There are 3 modules. And then in terms of time commitment in a session,
sure,
what does that look like?
Yeah, so for our in-person module, our days are structured in 90-minute sessions. And so you'll have 4 in a day. We'll be in session from about 9 to 5 o'clock. There's breaks in between each session, and then a midpoint break where we have lunch. And so the longest 1-hour break. And then in terms of our live online sessions, we typically run 2 90-minute sessions per live online day. And those will begin at 10 o'clock, and we'll have frequent breaks throughout. We've learned from the pandemic that being able to get up and stretch periodically is super effective, and it helps people stay focused.
Mm-hmm. I wholeheartedly agree with that. As a person who went through the pandemic and took classes during the pandemic, learning in 60-minute to 90-minute increments is awesome. Breaks are so helpful as an adult learner. And I see in the chat, Rachel echoing that the Reflected Best Self assessment it was incredibly insightful and helpful for her. I took it as well. Same experience. It was fantastic to receive feedback from people in my network. about where I shone just naturally, innately to me, authentically to me. And that goes back to what we discussed earlier about how leadership starts with you. And you need to understand that before you can then lead others. We did get a question about the individual, like not the individual projects, but something that we can share internally with the organization. How can we share what we learned with our internal organization? That's a great question. I have an idea, but Gypsy, do you have anything that comes to mind first?
Yeah, I think the best example of your learning through this program will be the results of this applied learning project. And so both the challenge that you identify and then the solution and or next steps that you work through as part of the final component of this program is something that you can take back to your leaders, to your team that Monday after you finish this program, and you'll have a loose roadmap that you agree with that you can demonstrate in terms of your learning. And so we're hoping that you're applying the tools and concepts that you get from this program to this challenge, and you can immediately start working on that solution when you get back to your contexts. And so it's a tangible demonstration of all of the effort that you've put into this program.
Excellent. You mentioned at the top that it could be that individual project could be a professional as well as a personal project. Is that right?
That's right.
Yeah. So if you want to draw on something that you're experiencing from work, you can feature that. Or if it's something that's more personal to you, something that's outside of the traditional work realm, that works too.
Yeah, we have folks, who are very involved in their communities and nonprofits and volunteering, and similar challenges that come up in the workplace can also come up in those contexts. And that's a great place to draw from for a business challenge.
I want to ask a question about getting in the mindset to prepare to attend such a program. We're sketching out the situation, not the situation, but the program where you're participating over the course of 3 weeks, correct? And you're participating over the course of 3 weeks. We know that there's prep work that goes into each module. So prep work for each week is along with the sessions. So how would you prepare, or how would you counsel someone to get in like the mind space to actively be present and participate in this program while also juggling their day-to-day responsibilities?
So I think there's a couple ways that you can do this. I think one is making sure you socialize that you're going through this program with your teams and with your relevant leaders. You want their support from the beginning so that when it comes time to block off time for the live online sessions or to be here on campus, there's a shared understanding that you're investing in your learning, and that means focused attention. That means allocating that specific time to be here and be present with our faculty and with your cohort of peers. And I'm sorry, can you was there a second part to your question, Kristen? Okay.
It was like, sometimes when we have participants attend our programs, sometimes they say like, man, I really wish I would have just come into a program like more open, not open-minded, but just like to like air it all out, just like fully be me. And or for that, sometimes it's more tactical. Like I really wish I had put out an out of office message, like given myself that permission to take that space and take that time away from the office.
Yeah, those are good examples. And so it's making sure that you're able to bring a level of self-disclosure to the program, and self-disclosure can vary widely depending on the individual. And so we want you to bring as much of your authentic self to the learning experience as possible. And so doing things like Christian mentioned, setting it out of office, making it clear that you're taking this program, blocking off time to complete assignments so that you feel prepared and ready to take in even more learning when you're sitting live with these faculty. And it sometimes can be simple things, right? In a live online environment, making sure your office door is closed, or wherever you are, if you're home, making sure you have a nice closed learning environment that's free of distraction and allows you to fully participate.
And probably, and that part of that full participation is the relationships you develop with your colleagues. That's right. Talk about like how the benefit of the program can continue after the program concludes, like formally, right? Is if you have questions about negotiating a job offer or trying to address an interpersonal challenge among your team. Like, you have people who are in this program with you who can draw on like those conversations you had in the class, can provide you with some good counsel. So giving yourself that space and permission to like be fully present so you can develop those relationships is also really helpful.
Yeah.
I see that someone has Telphany attended the Harvard Kennedy School Executive Program. Brava. That's awesome. I love it when I see people having participated in other executive education programs and that you're also willing to consider ours. It's great that you've seen that that your experience in that program opened a door for you. In terms of the class content, this is a great question for you, Gypsy. Like, there's a lot of, like you mentioned, pre-work and assignments. So will that material be available to you after a participant leaves the program?
Yeah, so we use a learning management system called NovoEd, and so that's where all of your learning materials will be available throughout the program. And then post-program, once things complete, faculty do, depending on the individual, they opt to share their slides after their sessions. And these slides are made available on the NovoEd learning platform. Some post-learning materials, like, for example, faculty might reference articles or relevant books that might be of interest if you were interested in deepening your learning. And so these kinds of materials will be made available on the platform and available for download. We typically leave our platform open for about 2 to 3 weeks after the program to give you time to integrate your learnings, decide what you'd like to download from the platform, and ensure you have all of your materials, say a final, goodbye in the team workspace. But we hope that that means you've carried on that conversation in a different way with your cohort groups so that you stay connected beyond the program. So as I said, all of these things will be available to you and you can download them as you wish.
Hopefully that answers your question, Telphany. If you have any more questions or follow-ups, what I'm going to do is actually drop our email address into the chat. So if anybody on this call has questions beyond this webinar, feel free to email us. We're happy to chat further. So are there any other questions? Gypsy, did you want to touch on anything more relating to the program? We still have about 15 minutes left of like time that we've set aside. I know that we touched on demonstrable ROI a little bit. That was a question that we've fielded from other prospective participants that we wanted to bring here, but I think you've touched on it, where you have a learning project to tackle during the program, and that is something that you can turn around and then give back to your team and back to your supervisors. Is there anything else that you wanted to touch on relating to that?
I think related to that, I'm most excited about the reflective journaling component. Learners, they'll get provided prompts and frameworks for writing that is essentially meant to support their learning. There's this idea called metacognitive process writing, and it's a practice in which you examine how and why you acted or will act in a situation. And in this program, we're using this as a complement to prepare for readings, assignments, or to integrate insights after a live session. And we found this to be really effective in some of our other programs, to the point where leaders choose to bring these practices back to their teams or to their peers as a way to work together or integrate complex ideas and identify solutions for different challenges they might be facing. So I'm really excited to see what that looks like for our learners in this program. And I think it'll be an effective tool to support your learning through the live sessions, but also with the applied project as well.
Say the top of the phrase again. Metacognitive processing.
Metacognitive process writing. Sorry, it's a mouthful.
It is, but something that I think that, like, at least, I don't know about you all on the call, but something that I'm going to go and Google search immediately afterwards.
Yeah.
Learn more about it. Adam, great question about cost. So the cost of this program is, I have it right here. Oh my goodness, $6,800. Discounts are available if you are affiliated with nonprofit, small groups, government. Missing one. If you are a Yale graduate, be that the college or the university, and I think we're looking into if this program does qualify for veteran benefits. I think that is something my colleague, Joe Lavido, is looking into right now. And then in terms of, are you allowed to pay for this program in installments? Yes, is the answer. we can help you do that. Email us and we can help talk through that more off the call for your particular circumstance. So any other questions? I'm going to then slowly start wrapping things up. This is great. I love a tidy webinar. I love a webinar that delivers a lot of questions and provides delivers a lot of answers and provides opportunities to ask questions. So again, if you have any questions, please send them our way. After this webinar, you will get the recording of this session. You'll also get resources for ways to learn more, either the program brochure, the justification letter that we have for this program, maybe some links to some of that faculty expertise that we discussed at the top. So stay tuned for an email for us. For now, I just want to say thank you, Gypsy, so much for joining this call, taking the time to share your expertise with us. And thank you everyone on the call for joining us today. We really are looking forward to talking with you more. The application requirements for ELP include submitting your CV and a letter of intent that describe your professional background and goals as they relate to attending the program. And if you have more questions about that, there's information on our webpage, as well as you can always email us and we can talk to you one-on-one. We would love for you to attend this program, but if your path leads you in a different direction, we completely understand. Whatever path you choose, we just hope that this time together was helpful and that we can continue to be helpful to you along the way. So we look forward to staying in touch. And that's it. Thank you everyone for your time today.